Pretty much every two-stroke Seadoo out there uses this style fuel sending unit. These fail in basically two ways. The float itself absorbs gas and just sinks to the bottom, shows empty all the time, or there's a little tiny fuse in here hidden under the plastic that burns out, and then it doesn't matter what the float does, it just shows empty all the time. So let me show you what you're going to need to do to fix either one of those problems on your Seadoos fuel sending unit so that you have a working fuel gauge. After we've got our grommet off the top, we need to get our little screen filter off the bottom here. So there's three little tabs that we can push in with a small screwdriver. I've also got a flathead here if I need to pry up on it, but I don't need to. That just popped right out. And you see there's some trash down in there, so we're going to want to clean that out. But we need to get out our float. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. I'll shake it right by the microphone. Can you hear that? This has got fluid in it. So if you shake it and it sounds like a conch shell, it's got water sloshing around in there. If your Seadoos fuel sending unit float sounds like the ocean, it's bad. You're going to need to get a replacement fuel float, which is linked in the description and the pinned comment, of course. But next, we're going to need to get into here and fix our wiring. So if you sight down in here, this looks pretty bad. The side that the float sits on, we need to cut a hole at the top of the opposite side. So that's the skinny side of this. You can tell because if you look in here, after you've taken the bottom off, one side of the circuit board has components on it and one side doesn't. We need to get to the side that has the components, which is this upper side on the thinner wall. So we're going to cut a little like 1 inch by 1 inch hole below this lip. So we do not want to cut above this lip because that would compromise the seal that this can make on the fuel tank and stuff. So we could have gas fumes getting out into the hull. Not a good time. Below this edge, we're going to cut a 1 inch by 1 inch hole with the Dremel. So if we take multimeter, boy, I wish I could kind of hold that there, and we test from either side of this fuse. It's hard to do this with one hand. Oh, well, there you go. The fuse literally just fell apart. So what we're going to do, we're going to replace that fuse with a piece of wire and add an external fuse. That's how I've always done these, and it's worked great. All right, we got our soldering iron heated up. We're just going to go in here and melt the solder around this fuse. There we go. Just need to get that removed. Clean up our pads a little bit there. Now, the important thing to remember, we just need to bridge from this to this. So we could do that right here if that's easier, or where the old fuse was. Either way, it doesn't matter a whole ton, just as long as something is bridging where the fuse was. So we bridged across that with a piece of copper wire. It's soldered in there. It's not the greatest soldering job. I could try and touch that up, make it a little bit nicer, but the important thing is that it's connected. That's really all we need to worry about. That's secure. It's not going anywhere. It's soldered. It's got a good connection. That's our important thing. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. So now at this point, we need to clean up our plastic a little bit here. We can leave this opening because this is inside the tank. It doesn't matter at all if this is cut open like this. This is perfectly fine. Okay. With our fuse replaced, it's time to install our brand new float that isn't full of fuel. So that just goes and slides in down here. Then we can put our bottom piece, which is cleaned up, back in. And there we have it. I like to add a fuse externally because we've just bridged that internal fuse with a piece of wire. So what I do is just pick one of these two wires. We're going to clip it, then solder and shrink wrap in a little waterproof fuse holder like this with a 1 amp fuse in there, which is way more than this needs to be, but it's the smallest fuse you can get in an external variety, at least something nice and waterproof like this that's easy to find. And I'm just going to splice that in right here, solder it in, shrink wrap the ends, and then this thing should be ready to go after we test it. So this meter's set to ohms. We're going to put one wire in one and the other wire in the other. Then we're going to look at our reading. It should be close to 90 ohms with it in the vertical position. That would be empty. And then if we tip it so that the float slides up to the top where it will be when it's full, it should be very close to 0 ohms, which it's 0.4, so 0.3. And you can get it to kind of slide in the middle, and it should be about in the middle. Basically, the point is, at empty it should show empty, at full it should show full. Our grommets back on, our fuse is in, everything's wired up, fixed, ready to go. This thing can go back in the machine, and it'll have a working fuel gauge now, so it'll be ready for the season. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you've got a broken fuel gauge on your Seadoo, maybe this will fix it up for you. Everything you need to follow this guide is linked down in the description as well as the pinned comment. So head on down there and grab the stuff that you need to get your sending unit back up and running before the boating season starts. Thanks for watching.